Hello and welcome to the first episode of my brand new sewing channel. So this video is all about how I took a very popular corset dress pattern, which is by Rose Cafe Bustier, and I used it to complete my upcycling project. Okay, so what can I say that's happening in this video? This video is going to showcase me completing a bra cup, completing 2 bra cups, adding straps to a dress, I'm going to be adding interfacing, and I'm going to be using zip ties, bones for a corset. So if you're interested in finding out how I actually complete those steps successfully, have a look through this video, like if you find it helpful. So let's get into it.
The left and the centre will show you the before, and then on the right is the after, where we've spiced it up quite substantially. So I've included a link to the pattern on the Etsy shop below. Spend some time putting all of these little puzzle pieces of this pattern together. I feel like it really helps me to visualize what's in store ahead and where I'm going to cut these pieces of pattern. So I laid the dress out on the table, ready to cut. For the lining, I didn't have any black polyester, so I had this old jersey cardigan and I used that. And yes, I added interfacing to give it more structure. I felt like it was too thin and too stretchy. So here you'll see me doubling up with the interfacing and the fabric, and here's me taking a break. Being a beginner sewer, I knew I was going to need all the help that I could get. So back upstairs, and I've cut around all of my pieces and I've laid them out in front of me, ready to cut the dress. So the sleeves I knew had to go first, so I wanted to open those up to make it easier for me to cut the pattern on it. I'm always going for zero wastage, so I like to undo all of the seams. If we can keep as much fabric left over as possible, that gives us a little bit extra to play with in case we make a mistake. So I was able to cut a whole corset pattern from a top, and here's a skirt which I'm going to salvage and keep for later. Here you'll see me cutting out the piece that was to be on the fold. That's the center piece of the bodice. Even after ironing on the interfacing, I constantly triple checked to make sure all of the pieces matched up, and they're very similar, so it's very important to keep them separated and organized. Making sure I followed all of the instructions with Daria's YouTube channel. Sewing the pieces together were very easy with her clear instructions. And now I move on to the other pieces of the bodice. So please take note of this. I figured because the centerpiece was at the front, I wanted it to be nice and flat and have structure. It worked out really great, and I proceeded with the same process, interfacing all of the other pieces of the bodice. Okay, so now I've fused these together. I'm very, very happy that I made that decision to do that. So amongst all my mess, I'm actually going to place all of these bits together in an orderly fashion. Here's me indicating to sew both the right sides together, which makes me chuckle because I actually got this wrong twice. I pieced and pieced the pieces together, however I still managed to sew a couple of pieces the wrong way. So yeah, practice makes perfect though, doesn't it? So let's continue with the video. So after successfully sewing all of the body pieces together, we moved on to the bra cups. Now that's done, let's tackle the lining. Put the lining together. And now let's move on to the next part. Okay, so because I'm working with a fabric that tends to fray on the edges here, I'm actually going to run a zigzag stitch to act as an overlock. Zigzag stitch. So I decided to increase the length of the stitch to 2.5. Oops. Yeah, because I just felt like it was taking a lot of time. So as you can see, this is where it's 1.8. And I think that it's just as effective if I was to increase the stitch length. Now that's overlocked, we're going to go back to the lining. We're going to press the seams again to the center. Okay, this is really exciting. I get to attach the top to the bottom. I suggest trying to get it on over the body first. Once it's stitched, it's such a headache to unstitch. Okay, so just like the tutorial said on the Rose Cafe Bustier, that the side seams do not match up with the side seams on the skirt, and I found out that that is true in this very same case. And so it doesn't match to the side seam, but it does match up to the middle, almost the middle there. I fitted that onto my body, and now I've also decided to add a couple of darts in the front. Okay, let's sew the darts. I think I'm not going to make them long. I think I'm just going to do them. So that's 7. Pop a dot there. So now let's sew these two pieces together. Okay, so with all that excitement, I have gone and forgotten to put in the boning. I'm actually going to use zip ties because I don't need that much strength. These are so much more flexible, so they'll just add an extra little piece of strength here, but I'm going to have to open up the channels and feed them in. So I think I'll open it up from the top here because I've already sewn it here, and also, you know, it kind of saves it being bulky here anyway. So let's go ahead and do that. On the Rose Cafe Bustier, there are ribbons so that we can add straps. I have scraps fabric, but I feel like it's just not going to fall as nice as ribbon, and so I have this cotton twill, and I'm going to use this. So I placed those pieces, those straps, into their correct place, and then I sewed all the way around the top of the bust. I was very careful cutting off the corners as instructed, and I used a crochet needle to help me to squeeze a nice fine point as I turned the corners out, and it turned out really great. Like, this pattern, I can completely recommend it. I'm a beginner sewer, and I was quite surprised at how I managed to put this all together, and it was fun too. And the rookie mistake I made was not cutting the zip ties far low enough so that they sit under the seam that I was going to sew, because when I turned it out, it ended up being bulky and I had to cut it back with the scissors and push it back. So that was a waste of time. I should have keep in mind that I should cut those boning slightly shorter than where I was going to sew my seam allowance. Here's me taking out my invisible zipper foot, because we're now going to tackle the zip, and I was dreading this part, but again, with the great instructions from the YouTube channel that Daria uploaded, I was able to sew a clearly invisible zip. Here you go. The results are amazing.
My God, that's beautiful.
I'm astounded at what I've done here, so please do try this at home. As I was looking at the bra cups, I realised that even though I sewn these two together earlier and thought it was a fantastic idea because it was nice and sturdy, well, I do actually need a lining to place on the inside so that I can, to sew and then I can overturn them so that they can hide all of this and look nice and neat from inside. I managed to salvage some more pieces, so it's a little bit another extra added on to the Rose Cafe pattern, but nevertheless it's still going to work out absolutely wonderful. So this is an interesting find. I added interfacing because I thought this would not turn out right, or I thought the sewing machine wouldn't be able to sew it because it's such a stretchy fabric, thin fabric. Actually, it turned out quite well. I'm going to sew it, turn it over, and then pin them to the rest of the dress. Here's me adding the straps to the cup before sewing all of the pieces together. So for me, this dress took me 3 days of sewing to complete, but I can totally see myself trying to sew this dress again in one whole day, and hopefully by maybe the 3rd or 4th time I'll be able to get this done in a half day. Watching this video, and here's 2 more making corset dresses. Thanks guys, thanks for watching. Bye, see you next video.